Well, good morning, everybody. This is BC Clark, and this is the Business Connection. What we do here is interview business owners across the state. Today, my guest is Katlynn Pyatt. Katlynn, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Katlynn is the owner of Start Marketing.
Yes.
So I'll let her tell you a little bit more about her as things go on. As we stated earlier, we do interview business owners across the state, and we try to bring tips and tools that you can use in your business. And so today we'll be talking with Katlynn, and we'll go through some of those questions that you haven't asked or you want to ask. Hopefully we can bring you some good solutions to those. So Katlynn, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I host a podcast called Start Marketing. And by day, I'm actually the director of marketing at a startup. And then I host this podcast because I actually started it as part of a consulting business a couple of years ago and decided that I really love podcasting a lot. And so I really kind of dove into it. But I wanted to do something. I've worked in marketing my entire career. I love it. It is my craft. It's so much fun to me. And when I wanted to kind of make a change in my career, I thought, where do I go from here? I was working in corporate marketing, and I wanted something that was a little bit more flexible. I have 3 little kids, and I thought, these are the days, and I want to be able to enjoy them and spend time with them. And so I started a consulting business called Authentic Branding and Marketing.
I love that.
And thank you. And as part of that, I started the Start Marketing podcast because as I was sitting at the table, in corporate marketing with agencies, and I thought to myself, I'm kind of getting in the mind of being a small business owner. And I'm thinking, how am I going to market my business? I'm looking at the budget, my $1 million budget that I have from my company, and what I'm paying these agencies, and I thought, there's no way I can do this. And so I thought, what can I do in my business to help small business owners? Because that's a huge gap between what a small business owner can afford to pay for marketing. Yeah. And I thought, I can fill that. I like to talk, and I like to talk about marketing. And
you like to share, and that's important.
Yes, I like to share, and I have a ton of knowledge that I've learned and experienced from sitting on the corporate side of things and talking and working with these agencies. I can kind of help demystify that process for small business owners, and I can teach them the kinds of marketing strategies that are available and what they actually should be doing.
And that's cost effective too.
It is,
because as small business, I'm glad you stated that, because as small businesses, they hardly ever put a budget for marketing. Right. Because I think they think, well, I don't need it because I need to put the money over here. And I would have to say, no, you do need it because you have to do some type of marketing. Even if it's just on social media, but that too needs to be done very well, or it can be misconstrued, right?
It is. Yeah. Marketing is always a process, and I always tell people when I work with them and when I talk to them, you always think you don't need marketing until you do.
Yes, exactly.
Until the referrals, a lot of small business owners will say, well, I work off word of mouth, and word of mouth is hands down the best kind of marketing and advertising you can get. But what happens when the referral stops, or it's maybe a little bit slower?
Not to cut you off, but here's the thing too. If you're not networking, how does word of mouth happen?
Exactly.
Because
exactly.
No one's
and
coming
networking
in.
is marketing.
That's
yes.
right.
Yes.
So anyway,
it's so I would always ask, well, what happens if that dries up?
Right.
If it slows down? What are you going to do? And with marketing, you're playing the long game, right? You can't, unless you're going to spend a lot of money to pay for advertising, it takes a long time for your marketing to work.
To build. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a building process.
It is.
And so how can I help you think about building that process and putting, small little steps in place so that you can feel really confident that when you do start marketing, that it's working, it's moving the needle for your business in a way that it should, it's actually going to help, and you're not going to waste your time or your energy or even worse, your money on something that just doesn't help you.
Right, I so agree with you. I know back in the my company, Leading Edge Consulting at the time, and I've changed the name since then, but what we did was 3 of us, and That's what we did, marketing for small businesses. And the thing that was so incredible to me is that we would meet individuals who were spending like $40,000 on business. We met this one carpet business, and it wasn't a minority or anything, but he had been spending so much money with no returns. And so he said, I just thought I would try a small company. Which to him, it was like, I've been trying these big companies and they're not doing anything. Let me just, and somebody had told him about us. And so so he came to we had a breakfast that we did once a month. It was $25 for him to come. And it was all about sales and marketing. And the majority of the people there were not minorities,
Yeah.
And so he said, I like what I've heard. And so just not to take away from anything, but I want to show how sometimes you can go with the best people, but a lot of times it's about money and how much they can get out of you, and they don't guarantee any returns. But anyway, he worked with us, and we worked with him for about 3 months, and his sales definitely turned around. And he kept saying, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I got people coming in. I'm making money now. I haven't made money for 2 years, he said. And so that was great for us. We were a small company, and we really our pricing was probably not as much as it could have been, but we learned a lot from him and what he was going through, but we taught him a lot as well. And so it was a great collaboration with the two of us, and that helped us grow as well because he told other people about us.
Absolutely.
So it was a win-win on both sides. But I think that sometimes people think that, I need to go with this company because they're a well-known company. Well, and he was with a well-known company, but there was no returns, and then they really got upset that he wanted to move his business to a small business. It's like they're never going to give you any kind of returns. It was just all that stuff. And anyway, he was able to show his sales receipts after a while. But I love that about you because, you said, this is what I love, but I want to help small businesses, right?
Yeah.
And we know that sometimes they don't have the money to do the things. And there's little things that they can do if they understand what it is.
Exactly.
So to contract someone like you that can start off with some small things to get them to a point where they can, begin to build on that. Because it is a building.
Absolutely.
You can't just say, I'm doing marketing and you put something out once a week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, you're totally right. There's a foundation that you have to lay in order to kind of start that building process.
Yes.
There's some strategy things that happen behind the scenes that you don't always learn about when you're on Google, right? You can learn kind of the tactical pieces that say, if you want to do email marketing, here are the 5 things, here's quite literally how you do it. But it's the strategy behind it and understanding those pieces that I really like to work on and kind of teach people to say, here's what's going on behind the scenes so that you can start to take control of that and do it yourself. And then you start to see the success. And hopefully we get you to a point where you grow, where you do feel good about going to, a bigger agency and, that can take on all of those things for you if that's what you want, but it's really kind of understanding the process. And even I'm a big proponent of understanding the process so that when you do decide to pay for someone, you understand what they're supposed to deliver for you. Because there are plenty of agencies who will do really great things and are amazing people. Sometimes, like in the example you gave, you end up with someone who, they're happy because you're giving them a lot of money.
Yes.
And, they're probably doing something, but it's clearly not working for you. And you have to, as the business owner, you have to be confident and understand.
Yes.
And say, hey, you know what? This isn't doing what I need it to do. Something is off here. How can we change it? Do we need to change this strategy? Do we need to change the budget or, where we're putting this information? And that's, I understand that because I sit on both sides of that table and I've been there, so I can say, here's how you have that. Here's how you have that conversation and just kind of get people really comfortable with being in that space so that they don't end up, getting taken advantage of or just wasting their money, even if they're with great people.
And there's a lot of people that just will take your money because it's available to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that what I like about you learning and knowing about it. You can ask questions and you can say, well, this is where I think I want my money to go. I'd like for you to put it here. The problem is a lot of times they don't understand that process. That's why I think what you do comes in so handy for a small business, because you learn them, you teach them what things they should understand about it so that they know what to ask for when they go to get somebody for marketing.
Yeah,
and I think that's why I want to have, you come in and do some stuff for us, because we deal with tons of small businesses and they don't know.
Yeah.
They really don't know what to ask for. They know Facebook, they know Instagram.
They do, yeah.
And when I say they know it, they know how to place stuff out there, but they don't know if the communication is right. They don't know if it's in a way that it's going to grab someone's attention. And those are key things when you're building that you learn.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so a lot of times I'll see some stuff from our class, I was like, okay. It's not making me want to come in, okay? And so you know that they don't know, but they're just trying to put it out there. So I think for me, I'm like you. I wanted them to have the understanding of it.
Yeah.
What really works and what happens when I say this or when I do this on social media.
Yeah.
Who am I actually attracting at that point in time? Because it needs to be targeted.
It does.
And you have to be, intentional about that target, so that you can gain what it is that you're looking for, So I think that that's really good. And so here's the thing that I would say to you. Give us some points, okay, some pointers. The people that are listening right now, those business owners that are saying, I need marketing. I hear it all the time. I hear it every day. But they don't know what they need in marketing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
And so I want to say, I want to ask that question, but
Sure.
you don't want to put them on the spot and they won't know. And so I was like, okay, well, let's we'll do some workshops. Okay, yeah, that'd be great, because I want to do more marketing. That when they say that, and I know they have no clue about what that is. So that's why I'm going to, we're going to talk about
Absolutely,
getting some stuff for INEA. I think that'll be really good for us to do that.
Absolutely.
But anyway, go ahead and give us some pointers on what should we look for.
Sure.
And if they don't understand, we'll give you information later so that they can, have some information where they can know, at least have some information on how they can go and get stuff and how they should put stuff out.
Yeah. So it's a really popular question. It's something I get all the time. We're having some work done on our house, and the contractor came over and he was like, oh, you work in marketing? Like, what kind of marketing should I be doing? And so I think it's probably the most popular question I get asked. What I think people really mean when they ask me what kind of marketing should I be doing is, how can I do free marketing? That's usually what they're getting at.
Yeah,
I can give you lots of marketing ideas. Let's start with kind of the free ones. And so I always tell people, we kind of have to take a step back. There's not really a one size fits all when it comes to marketing. And that's good news and bad news, right? That means that I can't just give you a kind of off-the-shelf answer for it, a template. But the good news is that because it's not a template, it gives you a chance to kind of stand out and be unique, instead of just copycatting using the same formula that someone else might be using. And so I always take a step back and I say, before we talk about where you could be marketing or what you should be doing, let's make sure, do you know who your target audience is? Do you know exactly who you're talking to? Not just very broadly, I could say that, my target audience is small business owners, but that's still pretty big.
That's big.
My target is small business owners who are unsure about how to do marketing.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's that little
it's specific. It's
the
more
little
specific.
that specificity that just kind of narrows it down and gives you a little bit of focus, because we need focus when we go into marketing. If we're trying to do everything, we're doing nothing.
Yeah.
So let's focus. Let's figure out who is your target audience. And then what do you need to accomplish in your business? Because here's the thing, your marketing really should support your business goals, whether it's a certain amount of revenue or increasing the number of clients, it should support that. So we talk about those things. And then there's kind of some standards that I like for small business owners because they're really friendly. Setting up a Google My Business page or a Google Business profile. It's free to do, and it helps increase traffic to your website. If you have a website, it helps you. It helps get you more visible. It helps you show up in search without having to pay for keywords and things like that. I'm a big fan of Pinterest for small businesses because Pinterest, yes, and people, people are sleeping on Pinterest. I was doing it before, everybody likes to focus on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. And those channels can be great, but there's an algorithm that you have to satisfy in order to get visibility.
Right.
You are in for a long, hard battle
You are.
on social media if that's where you're going to spend your time.
Right.
It's not that it can't be done.
No, it can, but
but it's a lot of work. It's a full-time
takes
job.
some discipline too. Yeah.
Yes, it does. Pinterest, people think of as social media, but it's actually more like a search engine. If you Google something, you'll notice some of the top results are Pinterest pins.
They are. Yes.
And the nice thing about Pinterest is that you don't have to have a certain number of followers in order to get visibility. Unlike Facebook or Instagram, which kind of looks at, how many people follow you and like your content and engage with you.
I like Pinterest. I love pinning, and people just start.
Yes, and
I
it's
love it.
and the shelf life on it is longer. It doesn't disappear after 2 minutes in someone's feed.
Yes.
So things like that, where we can say, how can we help find you maybe some more small business friendly places versus trying to compete in spaces like Facebook or on Google or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So
that's
kind of where I
Pinterest
start.
Pinterest is a good one. I think people really don't realize the power behind it.
They don't. I didn't. I
didn't either until I started out there, and then I started meeting all these people. I mean, you'd be surprised. I
so that's where when people say, well, what kind of marketing should I be doing? I say, look for places that intersect with your target audience that also cover your capabilities and your capacity, because that's another really big piece of it. You're a small business owner. You have more than marketing to do every single day. Right. And so look for the things that you have the time and the skills to actually execute, because that's going to help keep it manageable for you. And so that's kind of where I start is look for those small business platforms that are really friendly. Start there and get comfortable with it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's a good point you brought up, because so many people think that Facebook is the number one place they need to be. And, so I got to do a Facebook business page. I need to do, I need to put all my pictures on Instagram. And I don't think they realize that if you went to Pinterest, you'd be surprised at the hits you get right away. Yeah. That's what I really like about Pinterest.
Yeah, absolutely.
When people know that you have an interest, they start sending you pins too.
Yes.
They'll say, you'll like this, and it's on everything.
Yeah.
Anything. So to me, I think it's more powerful than people believe, but it's only because they just don't know.
Yeah.
Because Facebook is mostly widely talked about. True. Hardly ever people talk about Pinterest.
Yeah.
That
is exactly it. I had that same mentality going into my own business. Yeah. I thought, I'm going to promote this podcast and I'm going to put it on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm just going to have this beautiful Instagram brand. And then it was like the most discouraging process to go through. It sort of like beat me down. Yeah,
I just got to the point where it kind of frustrated me a little bit. I was like,
I'm not. And so I came across a webinar that taught me all about Pinterest. And I'm like, what have I been doing my whole marketing life? And so
people don't
I'm
know
a big
the
fan
power
of
it. Yeah, I am too. And I haven't connected it to like everything. I think it's connected to MLWBC right now. But I want to talk to you about a couple of those things. But really, I really like the fact that you're teaching marketing.
Yeah.
You're not telling them, I'll do this for you or that for you, because, I really think that people need to know and understand how to market.
Yeah.
You're going to be in business for a long time. I hope you plan to. Then they need to know how to.
Yes.
And then sure, if you don't have the manpower but you have the money, you can go then and hire someone to actually do it for you.
Yeah.
But you need to know it so you can know what to ask for.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that people probably don't get. And if they don't have the money to really, so then they struggle with that. But go get the information.
Yeah.
Get that education. What's your podcast? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Start Marketing because I want small business owners to be able to go out and start marketing. So the whole concept behind it is really to make marketing more accessible and actionable. So I have plenty of connections and friends in the marketing world from all of the work that I've done, and so I bring them on and I split their episodes. They're 20-minute weekly episodes. Every Thursday morning they drop, and we talk through what the strategy is, and so what is it, and what can it do for your business. And then we do a second episode, which is really focused on the action steps, which is how do you actually do the strategy. And then I mix in some live coaching sessions, and I kind of review my own marketing in there. But the point is to really kind of pull back the veil, demystify marketing for small business owners, and say, here's how it can be really useful for you and how you can get started.
Get started with it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think that, first of all, let's tell people what a blog is, a blog post is. Let's talk about that.
Sure.
Because I've heard people say, what's a blog? And when you hear it, you probably see it and don't realize it's a blog. But
Yeah.
So talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, so a blog is typically when you go to someone's website, or if you are Googling something. So for example, if you were Googling, how to get started on Pinterest, you probably read someone's blog. It's a piece of content, essentially. Right. It looks like a page on a website, and we call it, in marketing, it's called long form content, right? It is basically something that establishes the writer's authority on the subject, and then teaches the reader something about it. And a podcast is very similar. It's just audio form, right?
Right.
So most people have a podcast app on their phone. It kind of comes standard. If you're not a podcast listener, you probably never even knew it was there. But if you're not somebody who likes to read and you're someone who likes to listen, podcasts are
Great to listen. Yes.
A great way to listen to the information, and still get kind of the same value out of it. So a blog post, really what it's doing for the person who's writing it, it's a form of marketing. It's going to send out all these little signals to Google that tells them, when somebody is searching for the topic related to their blog post, tells Google, hey, I'm an authority on this. You should show my blog post to this person. And then hopefully what that does is kind of start drawing
Gets you
people
in the feed.
in. Yeah, it kind of draws, it's kind of the lead to get somebody, we call it a lead magnet, get them into the sales funnel, right? Yeah. So blogs can be really, really great for small businesses. It takes a lot of time to put them together, and I think that's something that kind of gets glossed over when experts talk about it. They're like, oh yeah, just write a blog. Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but when I start looking at kind of best practices and stuff, and even if I'm not following best practices, how easy is it for you to sit down and write something coherent?
Right.
I get tongue-tied, and then I'm all over the place, and I get done, and I'm like,
plan it.
My English teacher would be ashamed of this. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to this.
No, it is. And I think that the other thing, too, is that, because we used to do what we called BizCast, same thing, podcast. Yeah. And the thing is that it seemed like I think we were before our time, because we were doing the BizCast back in the early 2000s, like 2003, 2004. Yeah. And podcast wasn't popular back then. And we were doing a BizCast, and I think that's how a lot of people found out about us, because we sounded like a large company. Yeah, you know
absolutely.
What I'm saying? Absolutely. And so people would, on Friday mornings, the breakfast would be full. It was an amazing time, clear up until 2008 when the economy went south. But I think that you have to have those interruptions, because it helps you to really understand how important it is of things that you're doing. It also gives you that motivation that was great. Yeah. No, I need to keep building on that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And as a small business, that's what you want. You need to have. I was telling someone just yesterday. I said, as a small business, you daily need to be focusing on your why. And looking at what you can do, what you can change, how can you make this business be better? Yeah. And are you looking for it to be legacy? You know what I mean? You can't just start a business and there's no follow-up or follow-through. Right. And I think that's what happens with a lot of our small businesses. What do you think?
I would agree. It's hard. You get into, and I kind of went through this myself when I started mine. I had all these really big ideas, and then I realized that I'm one person, and it's really hard to get big ideas done and off the ground. I know. And so I went through this process. Like I came out 2 years later, and I started mine, in January of 2020, right before COVID started, which is the worst time to start a business, by the way. And I feel like, 2 years later, I have a little bit of whiplash, but I know, a lot more about what I want to do. I'm so much clearer on who I want to help and how I want to help them, Originally,
that's important.
I thought like, I'm going to do marketing for people.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody, anybody. That's ridiculous. And I'm one person. I literally can't do that.
No, we're going to partner up. That's what we're going to do.
And then I thought, I'm going to do just like one-to-one client work. And then my podcast took root, and I was like, this is how I can help people.
Yeah.
This is a format that I love, and I can build off of it, right? And even today, like this month, I launched a community off of my podcast to say, if you love listening to my podcast, come over here and join my community, and I can introduce you to my podcast experts. I can help connect you to the people.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But it's a again, it's a building process.
It is a building process, and I think it's just like business.
Yeah.
You don't start out in business.
You don't.
Right? You don't just start in business. I mean, there's so much more that we can talk about, and I'm going to have you back on the show because I think that it's so important, but I really want to talk to you about some outside the show. But it's been a pleasure.
Thank you
having
so
you
much.
here today.
This has been great.
Yeah, it has, and just even I always learn. No matter what you can always learn something if you're open to it. And I really appreciate you coming today and telling us how to start to market.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we had Katlynn Pyatt today with Start Marketing. And Katlynn, give us your address and your email or whatever it is that you need. Email address.
Yep. You can find me, so you can find my podcast. It's on any podcast network. That's the easiest place to get me. I'm at Start Marketing. That's my podcast. My email is Katlynn@getauthenticbranding.com. So
I love that.
It's
Katlynn,
always
spell Katlynn, because it spells in different ways.
It is spelled, it looks like Katlynn. It's Katlynn.
So Katlynn at
getauthenticbranding.com.
Getauthenticbranding.com.
Yep.
We want to make sure that we connect with her and just watch some of the NEF stuff because we're going to have Katlynn doing some stuff for us that we'll talk about a little later. Thank you for joining us today. It's been amazing. Hope you learned a lot. If you have questions, you can always contact me. I am BC Clark. I'm bcc@nebbiz.org, or you can reach me at bc@thebusinessconnection.com. We'll see you next time.